Welcome back, you beautiful anomaly. You unmanageable force wrapped in human symmetry. You walking disruption that physics hasn't updated for yet. Sit with something for a moment. Something you were never meant to hear. Something whispered in rooms you'll never be invited to. Something too classified for the people who created the classification system. While you were living your life like a civilian, scrolling, breathing, healing, becoming, there were people in high offices staring at a still image of you, like it was a breach in the chain of command. Not metaphorically, literally. A man with real power, not Instagram power, not petty authority, but world-shaping power, felt outranked by your photo. And because his ego couldn't process that, because the hierarchy he worships collapsed in a single heartbeat, something happened in the building. A protocol activated. A protocol they've never seen before. A protocol that doesn't exist in their manuals, their archives, or their encrypted systems. And that's what's breaking reality for them right now. Your image forced the system to invent a new rule. Now pause. Feel the weight of that. A photo is supposed to be harmless. A moment, frozen, a pixel arrangement. But somehow, your pixels tripped a wire even the architects didn't know they installed. Somewhere at 2:14 a.m. in a control room thick with authority and tension, alarms blinked without sounding, screens recalibrated, and a warning label flashed that nobody had programmed. Unknown rank override. And the worst part for them? It wasn't an error message. It was recognition. It was compliance. It was submission. It was the system declaring, someone has entered the domain who doesn't follow our rules, doesn't kneel to our symbols, doesn't register in our hierarchy, yet outranks someone who built it. They couldn't believe it. They refused to accept it. They restarted the system. They scanned for viruses. They interrogated the software engineers at sunrise. But the code didn't glitch. The code adapted. Your presence rewrote it. And this is where things get interesting. Because if a photo of you can trigger a protocol that doesn't exist, what does that make you? What does that make your frequency, your existence, your impact? They don't even have vocabulary for you. They're using words like anomaly, unclassified authority, non-hierarchical dominance, sovereign presence, signature. They're trying to invent new psychological categories while pretending they aren't panicking, because powerful people only panic in private, and you've become their private panic. Let me take you into the room. A 9-person panel sitting around a table built for strategy, not humility. A general, a director, a strategist, a behavioral analyst, a counterintelligence expert, a subconscious response researcher, an energy field consultant, and 2 people whose job titles are so vague, even their own families don't know what they do. The general starts first. He speaks slowly, because he's trying to hide the tremble in his tone. Why did I feel outranked by this? He's pointing at your photo projected on a massive screen, larger than life, framed like a case study in supernatural interference. He tries to maintain composure, but every neuron in his body remembers the instinctive microsecond where something inside him saluted before his mind could protest. They replay the footage frame by frame, and there it is. The subtle tightening of his spine, the involuntary straightening, the almost imperceptible tilt of acknowledgement. Not respect, not intimidation, recognition. The behavioral analyst leans forward, eyes narrowed. Images don't cause that, not without priming, not without previous imprinting. He's responding to something beyond conscious classification. The strategist interrupts, or someone. They all look back at your photo like it's a forbidden artifact, like it's carrying a language they can't translate, but their nervous systems can. And that's what terrifies them the most. Your presence bypasses logic and speaks directly to instinct. Hierarchies crumble when instinct acknowledges a higher order. And that's exactly what happened. You didn't outrank the general on paper. You outranked him in his biology. By hour 2, the panic begins to camouflage itself as professionalism. They switch from asking, "What is this?" to, "How do we contain this?" But they can't contain what they can't categorize. They can't categorize what they can't predict. And they can't predict someone who didn't climb their hierarchy but stands above it anyway. Someone suggests that maybe the general's response was emotional, misfired memory, projection. But the general shakes his head. No, it wasn't emotional. It was structural. Something in me responded to something in them. The room freezes. They replay that word, them, because he didn't say the person. He didn't say the photo. He said them, as if you were a classification, a category, an entity, something bigger than the frame you were printed into. Hour 3 is where the real chaos starts. The system logs an event timestamp around the moment the general reacted. An automatic file opens itself, a file the system doesn't confess to having. A file labeled Protocol Orbital. There is no orbital protocol. Nobody at that table has ever heard of it. The engineers swear it shouldn't exist. But when they open the file, it contains exactly one line. Response required when hierarchy is neutralized by external presence. They stare at it like it's haunted, because that's what you've become to them. A haunting in their system, a ripple in their logic, a disruption in their architecture. They start arguing. Was this a dormant code? Was the system hacked? Was the general compromised? None of the explanations stick, because all of them rely on something you don't rely on. Permission, authorization, structure. You don't follow their systems follow you. By hour 4, the tone shifts. They're no longer discussing the photo. They're discussing the implications. Because here's the truth they're trying to avoid. Someone with real power felt outranked by a person who never asked for their approval. And if that person can outrank him, what does that mean for the entire hierarchy beneath him? It means the hierarchy is fragile. It means power isn't linear. It means influence isn't assigned. It's emanated. And you emanate without intention. You radiate without trying. You disrupt without effort. This is why the protocol triggered. Systems built on control always react when they detect something or someone who doesn't need their structure to hold power. Hour 5 is where desperation mixes with fascination. The counterintelligence expert starts proposing containment measures, monitoring, tracking, digital profiling. The usual tools of people who fear what they can't understand. But someone stops him, the strategist. Containment won't work. This isn't behavioral, this is gravitational. He says your presence behaves more like a field than like a personality, more like a force than a person. You bend perception, you rearrange dynamics, you reorder the invisible hierarchy people pretend doesn't exist. And the more they try to study the photo, the more unsettled they become. Because the truth is now unavoidable. Someone with real power felt smaller than you. And it wasn't a mistake. It was recognition. Hour 6 is the collapse. The quiet admission that they don't have the tools to analyze you. They only have the tools to react to you. Someone whispers, "We need to figure out what they want." And then the most uncomfortable realization settles into the room like fog. You don't want anything. You didn't post the photo to communicate. You didn't exist to send a message. You were simply being. And that's what terrifies them the most. Your existence alone is enough to topple their illusion of control. The general finally speaks again. I felt outranked because they're not operating inside the hierarchy. They're operating above it. He says it quietly, almost reverently, as if acknowledging a truth he spent his whole life avoiding. That rank is costume, power is theater, and authority is an invention that collapses the moment someone walks in, who doesn't need any of it to command reality. And that person is you. So now the room sits in silence, not because the meeting is over, but because the meaning is too large to speak. They saw something in your image they weren't prepared for. Something unscripted, something sovereign, something ungoverned, something that doesn't need their structures to stand tall. Your photo isn't just a picture, it's a frequency, a field, a signature that registers as higher order. And the moment they recognized that, their system folded. It invented a protocol to compensate, a protocol that still shouldn't exist, a protocol that only triggers when hierarchy encounters something it cannot outrank. And now, here's the part they still haven't processed. This was just the photo, not you in motion, not you speaking, not you realizing what you are. This was the weakest version of your presence, the two-dimensional imprint. Imagine what happens when they encounter the real thing. That's the thought that changes the oxygen in the room. Because up until now, they've been treating your image like an anomaly in the software, like a glitch in the sensory hierarchy. But the second someone whispers, if the photo did this, what does their presence do? The room fractures. It splits into two psychological camps. The ones who want to understand you, and the ones who want to contain you. Both sides are terrified, just in different dialects. The ones who want to understand you lean forward with fascination, like astronomers watching a star flicker in a pattern that redefines astrophysics. The ones who want to contain you lean back, like biologists realizing the virus they're studying can survive outside the lab and doesn't respect walls. And in the middle of it, the general, still rattled, still pretending he isn't, says the sentence nobody wanted to say aloud. If this is their weakest form, we don't have a response protocol for their strongest. That sentence detonates something quiet but violent in the room. The strategist starts tapping her pen, calculating the collapse of structures that rely on predictable human behavior. The analyst starts scanning through your online presence, your last movements, your digital footprint, trying to see if there were signs they missed, patterns that hinted you were operating at this level. But the truth is exactly what terrifies them. You didn't drop hints. You didn't build toward this. You didn't signal your ascent. You simply outgrew the gravitational field they thought everyone was stuck in. Now the room tries to reboot the discussion, but it refuses to reboot. Because you cannot organize chaos when the chaos is not chaotic, it's sovereign. And that's the paradox they're choking on. You're not unpredictable in the sloppy, reckless, reactive way people usually mean. You're unpredictable in the we have no metric for this way. You're not an error, you're an upgrade. And upgrades break systems when the system is outdated. Someone finally speaks up, the behavioral mathematician. He says, we've been modeling human trajectories wrong. They evolve linearly. This, he points to your photo, is nonlinear emergence. It's the kind of spike that collapses the model because it doesn't climb gradually. It jumps. The room hates this explanation because it forces them to abandon their frameworks. And frameworks are the only thing giving them the illusion of control. But the mathematician isn't done. He adds something that makes everyone uncomfortable. Nonlinear emergence is usually triggered by extreme internal recalibration, meaning this isn't random, they rebuilt themselves. And there it is, the part that humiliates them. You rebuilt yourself while they weren't looking. By now, the general is pacing in a slow circle, trying to hide the fact that he keeps glancing at the screen like it's a threat, a prophecy, and a confession all at once. The strategist notices and makes a note on her tablet. The note reads, "Instinctive reactivity is persistent," meaning he's still feeling outranked, even after the shock has worn off. That alone terrifies the others more than the protocol activation, because shock fades. But instinct? Instinct does not negotiate. Instinct does not apologize. Instinct does not recognize false gods. Someone finally attempts something ridiculous. They dim the photo. They literally lower the brightness on the display, like they're trying to dim the impact. The lights fade. Your image drops to 60% intensity, and nothing changes. The general still stiffens. The analyst still avoids eye contact with the screen. The strategist still has her heart rate spiking on her watch. Someone whispers, "It isn't the photo, it's the presence encoded into it." And that's the moment they realize they weren't reacting to pixels. They were reacting to the signature, the imprint, the field. Now they're spiraling. They're questioning identity, authority, structure, hierarchy, and their own roles inside all those things. Because if a single photograph can dethrone a man, they've spent decades trying to impress. What does that mean for everything they've built their authority on? It means the ladder they climbed wasn't a ladder. It was scaffolding. Temporary. Replaceable. Irrelevant in the presence of someone who operates outside the design entirely. While they're drowning in existential dread, the system does something else, something worse. Without being prompted, without a command, without an operator triggering anything, the system does a sweep. A full-spectrum analysis sweep. It scans your photo like it's scanning an unidentified celestial object. It runs your image through recognition software, not to find your identity, but to classify your impact. And after a full minute, 60 seconds of suspense heavy enough to fracture stone, it spits out a result that no one in the room knows how to interpret. The label reads, rank, non-territorial superiority. They don't know what that means. They know what territorial superiority is. That's military, strategic, geopolitical power. But non-territorial? That means your power isn't bound by land, position, title, or jurisdiction. It isn't anchored to anything physical. It's intrinsic, energetic, sovereign. You carry rank without territory. You carry authority without throne. You carry dominance without domain. You outrank the powerful because you don't compete with them. You bypass them. Now panic takes a new shape in the room. It's quieter, colder, more respectful. They look at your photo the way sailors look at storms, aware that survival is possible, but control is not. The strategist speaks again. She's calm, but her voice is trembling under the composure. We need to consider the possibility that we're dealing with an emergent hierarchy, one that doesn't require consensus, one that doesn't require recognition, one that imposes itself simply by existing. She pauses. We've been measuring power wrong, and they know she's right, because for centuries, power has been measured by external markers, rank, wealth, status, alliances, territory. But you've reintroduced a form of power they haven't accounted for. Internal gravitational authority. A power that bends how the environment responds to you. A power that doesn't need recognition to be recognized. A power that the body acknowledges before the mind can debate. A power that makes the general salute without understanding why. And here's the part that keeps them awake for the next 3 nights. If this is who you are now, who were you before? This question sends the analyst down a rabbit hole. She pulls up your old posts, old images, old traces of your existence, searching for signs of this frequency. But she finds something worse than precursors. She finds absence. You weren't posting in ways that show evolution. You weren't broadcasting ascension. You weren't projecting superiority. You were quiet, detached, focused on internal reconstruction instead of external performance. This means your transformation wasn't performative. It was structural. It was subterranean. It was a metamorphosis done in solitude, while they thought your silence meant irrelevance. The general sits again, exhausted by the magnitude of what he's confronting. "This changes everything," he mutters. The strategist tries to stabilize the conversation by asking, "What's our next move?" But the room stays silent, because when power is external, you strategize. When power is internal, you adapt. And when power is higher than yours, you kneel, intentionally or instinctively. Suddenly the system triggers again. A second protocol. Not a warning this time, a calculation. A line of text scrolls across the screen. Potential impact. Uncontainable, but non-hostile. The room freezes. They reread the words. Uncontainable, but non-hostile. That's the part that shakes them the most. Because it means the system doesn't detect intent to harm. It detects capacity beyond response. You aren't a threat because threats want something. You don't want anything. You are simply beyond them. And entities beyond hierarchy aren't enemies. They're forces. Someone whispers, "So what do we do?" And the mathematician answers, "We update the system." But the strategist snaps back. No system can be updated fast enough to keep up with someone who's not operating inside definable parameters. You can't update a box to contain something that isn't shaped like anything in the box. This is the first honest moment of the entire meeting. It strips away their arrogance, their illusions, their sense of superiority. And in that vulnerability, they accidentally tell the truth. They are outdated. And you are the update. Now the general leans forward, staring at your image like he's seeing a holy relic. He says, "We need to understand why I reacted the way I did." And the psychologist clears her throat. She's been waiting hours to say this, and now she has permission. You reacted because your nervous system registered a higher rank. Not socially, not militarily, primally. She pauses. You didn't salute a person. You saluted a presence. The strategist raises an eyebrow. Are you suggesting hierarchy is encoded biologically? The psychologist nods. Hierarchy is ancient. But what outranks hierarchy is even older. Recognition of higher order isn't taught. It's instinctive. This is where the dark humor creeps in. Not because anyone laughs, but because the situation is absurd in its seriousness. A group of powerful individuals, armed with credentials, data, authority, and structure, are sitting in a room analyzing a photo, like it's a cosmic artifact that rewrote physics. And the hilarious part? They're not wrong. Your presence did rewrite the rules. Not because you intended to, not because you tried to, but because you evolved into someone who no longer fits into the old rule book. And the universe, ever obedient to truth, corrected itself around you. By hour 7, the meeting has lost all structure. They aren't discussing action plans. They're discussing definitions, identity, reality. They debate whether power should be remeasured based on internal calibration instead of external markers. They debate whether there should be a new class for individuals who operate beyond governance, beyond hierarchy, beyond psychological manipulation, a category for sovereigns. And then someone says what everyone has been avoiding. What if we aren't supposed to manage this? What if we're supposed to learn from it? The general looks offended. Learn from what? The strategist answers, not what, who? And suddenly the room shifts again. Because now they're not treating you like a threat or a problem. They're treating you like a phenomenon, a natural law, a cosmic event, something that wasn't meant to be controlled, only observed. And the most ironic part? They're right. You didn't break their hierarchy by force. You broke it by existing outside it. You became untouchable when you stopped playing. You became sovereign when you stopped seeking. And your photo is the evidence, a mirror reflecting back the truth they didn't want to see. They spent decades defining power. You redefined it with a still image. Someone finally asks the forbidden question. What happens when the world sees this? Not just us, not just the system, the world. That question collapses whatever was left of their composure. Because if one man in a secure room felt outranked by your photo, what happens when millions of unprepared minds see the same image? What happens when they feel the protocol activate inside themselves? What happens when they recognize your frequency without knowing why? The mathematician says something unnervingly calm. The same thing that happened to him, internal reorganization. The strategist looks alarmed. Meaning, he says, you reorganize people simply by being seen. This realization devastates them because influence can be fought, control can be resisted, authority can be challenged. But reorganization bypasses willpower, it bypasses ego, it bypasses self-concept. When your presence reorganizes someone, they cannot return to the version of themselves shaped by hierarchy. They are forced into a new orbit, and you become their gravitational center. Now they understand why the protocol triggered. It wasn't protecting them from you. It was warning them of the truth. The hierarchy is collapsing, not in the world, but inside themselves. And once internal hierarchy collapses, external hierarchy becomes theater. Illusion? A stage play performed for people who still believe power is assigned rather than emanated. By hour 8, they have one last conversation, the most important one. The general asks, what do we do if we ever encounter them in person? And the psychologist answers with brutal honesty. Prepare to feel small and don't resist it. Because it's not dominance, it's alignment. The general doesn't like this answer, but he knows it's true. Something in him already aligned. That's why he saluted, not because he respected you, but because his system acknowledged you. There is a difference. That difference is the fracture line running through every powerful person who's seen your image since. They don't talk about it publicly, of course not. People with power never confess when their foundations shake. But behind their titles, behind their reputation armor, behind the committees and clearances and secret hierarchies, something has shifted permanently. The moment they saw your photo, their bodies registered a truth their minds had been trained to reject. Someone outside their structure outranks them. Someone outside their chain of command commands them. Someone with no badge, no insignia, no classification, carries a frequency that forces automatic recalibration. This is the humiliation that terrifies them the most. Not that you're stronger, not that you're freer, but that their entire life's work didn't prepare them for the kind of presence you operate from. They studied strategy. You studied self. They studied control. You studied liberation. They memorized the rules. You dissolved them. And now, because of one photo, one still frame containing the imprint of a person who rebuilt themselves from ash, they feel like imposters wearing medals they didn't earn. The general tries to regain composure by pacing again, as if movement will help his authority catch up with what his nervous system already accepted. There must be a way to counteract the effect, he mutters. But the mathematician shakes his head. This isn't an effect. It's the baseline. You're reacting to truth. That word, truth, hits the table like a weapon. Because power structures don't survive truth. They survive belief. They survive illusion, and your existence isn't an illusion, it's proof of concept. Proof that someone can step out of the hierarchy, reject it entirely, and come back with a frequency that makes the hierarchy kneel. The strategist tries to reframe the situation. Maybe the reaction was temporary. Maybe it won't happen again. The psychologist spins her chair slightly, eyes still locked on your photo. It will happen again, and stronger, because this wasn't triggered by image. It was triggered by recognition. She taps the screen where your eyes are. This part, this is what activated the protocol. The general stares at the eyes on the screen like they're looking back at him. What's special about them? The psychologist answers, they're not trying. That destroys him more than anything else. You outranked him without effort, without intention, without performance, without even being aware of the moment he saluted, and that's when he realizes the most painful truth. Dominance achieved through trying is inferior to presence achieved through being. You're not playing a game he can win at. You're not playing at all. They start discussing containment again, but this time with a tone that has surrendered underneath its bravado. You cannot contain something you cannot define. You cannot define something you cannot categorize. And you cannot categorize something that exists outside the categories themselves. The general asks one more time, what do we do when we encounter them in person? And the strategist answers quietly, we pray our systems don't collapse. There's no sarcasm in her voice. It's pure calculation. Because here's the thing they're finally admitting to themselves. The photo was enough to trigger a protocol that doesn't exist. A protocol the system invented on the spot to compensate for encountering a presence that breaks structure. So what happens when you walk into the room? When your three-dimensional frequency collides with their two-dimensional stability? When your consciousness occupies the same air as people who couldn't even handle the ghost of your energy? They don't have answers, because answers require data, and the only data they have is already too big for their minds to hold. Someone in the room begins to lose their composure. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. The kind of quiet that marks existential collapse. She's staring at the screen with a sinking horror that no training manual prepared her for. She whispers, we're not supposed to have protocols for this. This is beyond protocol. This is origin-level stuff. Everyone turns to her, confused. She continues, protocols manage things inside the system. This didn't come from inside the system. And that's the moment the room collectively understands. The system didn't detect you. It recognized you. Recognition is ancient. Recognition predates hierarchy. Recognition is the body remembering something the mind forgot. And that is what terrifies them. Your presence awakened something pre-institutional, pre-power, pre-governmental, something primal, something that has nothing to do with titles and everything to do with truth. They thought they built the hierarchy. But the hierarchy inside them, the one wired into instinct, responded to you before the one they constructed could intervene. Now the general sits down again, slower this time. He's no longer trying to assert dominance. He's trying to preserve dignity. "So what happens now?" he asks. The mathematician sighs. Now we observe. Now we wait. Now we hope the protocol doesn't escalate." That word, escalate, electrifies the room, because they hadn't considered escalation. They assumed the protocol was a one-time anomaly. But what if it wasn't? What if the system is still adapting? What if the system is still rewriting itself around you? What if the photo was only the first recalibration? The analyst checks the logs again, and her face drains of color. Something changed. They crowd around the screen. The protocol file, Orbital, has a new line that wasn't there before. It reads, "Awaiting further input from source." The strategist breathes the question everyone is afraid of. What is the source? The psychologist answers, "Not the image, the person." This means the system isn't done. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for the real you to step into the field. It's waiting for direct presence, direct activation, direct synchronization. This is where the dark humor sharpens, because these people, these professionals who pride themselves on being unshakable, are now terrified of something they can't schedule, can't map, can't anticipate, can't strategize around. They're waiting for you the way astronomers wait for a cosmic event, simultaneously reverent and horrified. Because you don't move according to their timelines. You don't announce your entrances. You don't schedule your breakthroughs. You show up when you decide to, and the universe updates the moment you do. Now the room has reached a level of panic so refined it looks like composure. They're talking calmly, but thinking violently. They're imagining scenarios. They're rehearsing reactions. They're calculating escape routes, not physically, but psychologically. How do you shield yourself from a presence that outranks you before you even understand how rank is being measured? How do you prepare for someone whose photo reorganized your identity? How do you meet the person when the imprint alone collapsed your hierarchy? You don't. You surrender. The general is the first to accept this. He doesn't say it aloud, but everyone sees it in his posture. He has stopped resisting. He has stopped debating. He has stopped pretending he is in control. Because deep down, beneath all the medals and discipline, beneath the persona of command, beneath the protocols and procedures, he knows the truth. He felt outranked because he was, and he will be again. Once surrender seeps into the room, it spreads. Not dramatically, quietly, like smoke finding its way into lungs that don't have the strength to protest anymore. You can always tell when powerful people give up on illusion. Their faces don't crumble. Their voices don't break. They simply stop performing. And that's what happens now. Every person at that table stops performing the version of themselves that was built for hierarchy. The strategist's shoulders drop. The analyst's pen stops tapping. The mathematician melts back into his chair. They all begin to look strangely human, unarmored, unadorned, undone. Because the thing they feared isn't you. It's the truth you represent. The truth that hierarchy is only as real as the people who believe in it. And the moment someone walks in, someone like you, whose presence doesn't bend to that belief, the entire structure loses gravitational pull. What outranks power isn't more power. What outranks power is independence from its language. You speak a different dialect, one they never learned, one they cannot translate without dismantling themselves. By now they aren't discussing you. They're discussing themselves, how much authority was borrowed, how much relevance was manufactured, how much control was simulated. They talk in low tones, fragile tones, the tones of people realizing they built kingdoms out of fog. The general stares at his own hands like he doesn't recognize them. The medals on his uniform feel heavier, not because they changed, but because he sees now that they were always weight, never wings. The psychologist finally cuts through the silence. We need to shift our mindset. This is not about maintaining control. This is about maintaining clarity. The strategist scoffs under her breath. Clarity about what? The psychologist doesn't look away from your image. Clarity about the fact that we were never the top of the chain. We were just the caretakers of it. Something else outranks us, always has. She taps your photo. This just reminded us. The mathematician adds, and it reminded the system. This sends a chill through the room, because they all know what he means. The protocol that activated wasn't written by any of them. It wasn't coded by engineers. It wasn't drafted by analysts. It emerged. Systems don't create new behaviors unless something forces them to. Your image forced it. You bent protocol into existence. You made the system rewrite itself just to accommodate your presence. The strategist tries to salvage dignity. Maybe the protocol misinterpreted the input. Maybe the software overreacted. But nobody supports her. They've run out of denial. They've run out of excuses. There's nothing left to hide behind. The analyst shakes her head. It didn't misinterpret anything. It recognized rank. The general inhales sharply. He hates that word now. Rank. Because it used to be his crown. Now it's his confession. They pull up the system logs again, watching the strange new lines formed inside the orbital protocol. The updates weren't random. They were responsive. They weren't errors. They were adaptation. The system was learning in real time how to categorize something that doesn't belong to any category. You didn't break the hierarchy. You revealed its fragility. At hour 9, the room shifts from panic to reverence. Not the respectful kind, but the reluctant, unavoidable kind. Powerful people don't worship easily. They worship only when something strips away their resistance. And now, your presence, your frequency, has done exactly that. The general finally says, "This changes how we operate." But the psychologist corrects him. "This changes how you see yourself." Her words land like a quiet blade. Because she's right. This isn't about strategy or protocol or systems. This is about identity. When someone outranks you without trying, without hierarchy, without symbols, without effort, they reveal the truth about what you were relying on. Your titles weren't shields. Your badges weren't anchors. Your systems weren't safeguards. They were decorations, painted armor. And you, just by existing, tore the paint off. Someone asks, "Should we notify the board?" The strategist answers, "And tell them what? That someone they can't classify reorganized our internal hierarchy with a photograph? That the protocol system wrote its own response? That the general saluted a civilian?" No one answers, because they all realize the same thing. This information cannot be shared. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's destabilizing. If the wrong minds get access to the truth of what your frequency did, the hierarchy won't just crack. It will dissolve. And that is the quiet catastrophe unfolding now. You didn't attack the system. You didn't infiltrate it. You didn't even speak to it. You simply existed, and existence was enough. Someone finally says the line everyone is thinking. We need to prepare for the possibility that the person in this photo is not stepping into our structure. The structure will have to step into theirs. The room goes still again, because this isn't protocol. This is surrender disguised as strategy. The general is staring at your image with a haunted calm. The kind of calm a person gets when they finally accept that the world they built their identity on wasn't the world they belonged to. He stands, walks closer to the screen, and studies your eyes for a long time. No one interrupts him. His voice is low when he speaks. They didn't outrank me with power. They outranked me with presence. The psychologist nods. Presence is older than power. He exhales. Presence is power, and that's the moment they stop running from the truth. The general turns back to the room. We need to adjust our understanding. Their existence reorganizes ours. The protocol wasn't triggered because they were a threat. It triggered because we encountered a force of higher order. He pauses. And forces of higher order do not negotiate with structures of lower order. The strategist touches her forehead. So what do we do? The general answers with the only honest response left. We adapt. It's then that the system flickers again, as if agreeing. Another update appears, slow and deliberate. Status, awaiting embodied presence. The room reads it in silence. There is no confusion anymore. The system isn't scanning for your identity. It's preparing for your arrival. Not physically, energetically, hierarchically. Something in the architecture is bracing itself for contact. The analyst murmurs, "This isn't a glitch." "No," says the psychologist. "It's recognition." "But recognition of what?" "Of the truth," she whispers. "The truth that authority is not something you climb to. It's something you become. And that's your quiet victory. The kind that doesn't roar, doesn't brag, doesn't posture. The kind that reshapes reality by existing inside it without bending to it. You outranked a man who thought he had reached the ceiling of power because you don't live inside ceilings. You don't acknowledge walls. You don't participate in their architecture. And now that they've recognized this, now that the protocol has adapted, now that the system has acknowledged a presence it cannot classify, now that they've surrendered internally, even if they'll never admit it externally, there's only one truth left for them to face. They haven't met you. They haven't spoken to you. They haven't been in the same room as you. They reacted to the weakest version of your existence, and that realization settles over them like a shadow that doesn't need light to be seen. Because if the photo outranked them, the person will unmake them. That is the quiet, sinister truth they carry home in their chests. A truth they cannot speak, cannot share, cannot exorcise. A truth that echoes every time they close their eyes. The hierarchy didn't collapse because you entered. It collapsed because you exist. And when the system finally encounters the full gravity of your presence, there will be no protocol left to trigger. Only recognition, not loud, not dramatic, just inevitable. Just true. Just you.